Dodgers Nation, there's always something exciting about this time of year, when conversations start shifting from the obvious stars to the names that haven't dominated headlines yet, but could quietly shape the future of this franchise. We spend so much time talking about the established core in Los Angeles, the superstars who fill Dodger Stadium and carry expectations every single night, that sometimes the next wave develops just outside the spotlight. And that is exactly where things get interesting. Because while the big league roster is built to compete right now, the organization is constantly evaluating which young players might be ready to push their way into the picture sooner than people expect. A lot of the buzz lately has centered around the top prospect in the system, the kind of player who feels inevitable, the one everyone assumes will climb quickly and force the front office's hand. That type of talent always grabs attention, and understandably so. But beyond that headline name, there's a deep group of prospects working through spring training, grinding through innings and at-bats, trying to prove they're more than just future possibilities. Some of these players are not projected to make an immediate splash this season, but when you look at the next 1 or 2 years, you start to see how crucial their development could become. One of the most fascinating aspects of this current Dodgers window is how well-balanced it feels. The team has veterans locked into key roles, but there are also contract timelines that naturally create opportunities down the road. When you look ahead 3 or 4 seasons, you can already identify positions where transitions may occur. That is where these young infielders and pitchers come into play. There are middle infield prospects in the system who are still very young, some not even 20 years old, yet the organization clearly views them as long-term pieces. The path is never linear for players that age. Growth comes with adjustments, setbacks, and lessons learned in smaller markets before they ever step onto the field in Los Angeles. But if everything breaks the right way, you can start to envision them stepping into meaningful roles just as current veterans move on or shift responsibilities. Spring training gives us small glimpses of what that might look like. A diving stop in the infield, a strong throw across the diamond, a disciplined at-bat against a major league arm. These flashes do not guarantee anything, but they spark conversation. There is one infielder in particular whose physical tools stand out immediately. He has the frame, the arm strength, and the athleticism that suggest he could handle multiple positions. Some scouts project him to stay at shortstop. Others believe third base might ultimately be the better fit. That kind of versatility is invaluable for a team like the Dodgers, who value defensive flexibility as much as offensive upside. If he continues to develop at the plate while refining his defensive instincts, he could align perfectly with the organization's long-term roster planning. On the pitching side, there are equally intriguing questions. There is a talented left-hander who, at one point, was considered near the top of the system before injuries slowed his momentum. The potential is still there. The fastball has life, the secondary pitches flash swing and miss ability. And when he is healthy, he looks like someone who could slot into a big league rotation. The challenge, of course, is staying on the field. Development is not just about stuff, it is about durability. For pitchers especially, building up innings in a controlled, smart way can be the difference between becoming a reliable starter and constantly fighting to regain rhythm after setbacks. The Dodgers are known for being cautious with young arms, and for good reason. Rushing a pitcher rarely ends well. There are also hitters in the system whose value hinges on refinement rather than raw power. One outfield prospect has a legitimate hit tool, the kind that makes you believe he could handle major league velocity eventually. But defense matters in Los Angeles. The Dodgers prioritize clean routes, strong reads, and dependable execution in the field. If a young player struggles defensively, it becomes harder to carve out immediate playing time, especially on a roster built to contend for a championship. That does not mean the bat will not play. It just means the development curve must include defensive growth before call-up becomes realistic. That is the reality with prospects. They are projections, not guarantees. For every player who rises quickly and becomes a cornerstone, there are others who plateau, get leapfrogged, or become trade pieces in a deadline deal. The Dodgers understand this as well as any organization in baseball. Their system is deep enough that not every top-ranked name will ultimately wear Dodger blue at the highest level. Some will be moved to address immediate needs. Others will surprise us and force their way into the conversation through performance alone. What stands out right now is how balanced the pipeline feels. There is not just one can't-miss talent carrying the weight of expectation. Instead, there's a cluster of players at different stages, some close to the majors, others still a few seasons away. A corner infielder who could develop into a power threat. A young international signing with exciting athleticism but years of refinement ahead. A college arm who might move faster because of experience. Each represents a different timeline, and together they form the bridge between the current championship push and whatever the next era of Dodgers baseball looks like. And that is why these conversations matter. Not because every one of these prospects will become a star, but because within this group are the players who will eventually fill out the roster when inevitable changes occur. Whether it is stepping into a starting role, providing depth during an injury stretch, or emerging as an unexpected contributor in a pennant race, their preparation is happening right now, in backfields and minor league parks, far from the national spotlight, but directly connected to the future of this franchise. When you zoom out and really analyze where the Dodgers stand as an organization, it becomes clear that this next stretch of seasons is about maximizing a championship core while carefully preparing for inevitable transitions. The front office has done an outstanding job building a roster that can compete deep into October, but no window stays open forever without reinforcements. That is why evaluating these prospects through a realistic lens is so important. It is easy to fall in love with upside, to imagine every highly ranked name becoming an all-star. The truth is much more complicated, especially on a team where there is very little margin for growing pains at the major league level. Take the near-ready players first. There are a couple of names who feel like legitimate candidates to appear in Los Angeles at some point this season, if the circumstances align. Maybe it is an injury. Maybe it is a stretch of underperformance. Maybe it is simply that a young player forces the issue with undeniable production in AAA. Those are the prospects that generate the most immediate excitement, because you can realistically picture them contributing in meaningful games. A versatile cornerback who can handle both third base and the outfield. A right-handed pitcher who could transition into a multi-inning relief role if the rotation remains crowded. These are not fantasy scenarios. These are plausible paths if development stays on track. At the same time, there are prospects whose value might be more long-term or even strategic. We have seen this organization operate at the trade deadline before. When the Dodgers identify a need, whether it is a frontline starter, a high-leverage reliever, or a complementary bat, they are not afraid to move from prospect depth to strengthen the big league roster. That is part of being a contender. So when you look at the top 10 or even the top 15 names in the system, it is fair to ask which of them are viewed internally as future pillars and which might become currency in the right deal. Not every talented player will reach his ceiling in Los Angeles, and that is simply the business side of competing every single year. Another key factor in all of this is age and experience. There is a significant difference between a 23-year-old who spent 3 seasons in college baseball and a 19-year-old international signing adjusting to professional pitching for the first time. The timelines are not the same. The expectations cannot be the same. A polished college arm might move quickly because he already understands pitch sequencing and has faced advanced competition. A teenage infielder with elite tools might need several years just to refine his approach at the plate. That does not make one more valuable than the other. It simply means patience must be applied differently. Health also plays a massive role in shaping the future. We have already seen how quickly a promising trajectory can shift when injuries enter the equation. A pitcher working his way back from elbow trouble may still have frontline potential, but the organization will likely manage his innings carefully. That could delay his arrival or change his role altogether. Sometimes a player projected as a starter ultimately finds his place in the bullpen because durability becomes a question. That adjustment is not a failure. In many cases, it is the smartest path to preserving talent while still extracting value at the major league level. For position players, the developmental hurdles can be just as complex. It is not only about hitting for average or flashing power in batting practice. It is about controlling the strike zone against experienced pitchers who know how to exploit weaknesses. It is about making smart base-running decisions in high-pressure moments. It is about positioning and instincts on defense, especially for a team that prides itself on limiting mistakes. We have seen young players press during spring training, try to do a little too much to stand out. That sometimes leads to aggressive swings or risky decisions on the base paths. Those moments are part of the learning curve. They are reminders that even the most talented prospects are still refining their baseball IQ. What should encourage Dodgers fans is the organizational stability guiding this process. There is no desperation here. The Major League club is not relying on 3 or 4 unproven players to save the season. Instead, the development staff can focus on long-term growth without forcing timelines. If a prospect earns his opportunity, it will be because he is ready, not because there is no other option. That kind of environment increases the odds that when these young players do arrive, they are prepared to handle the spotlight that comes with wearing this uniform. Looking ahead 2 or 3 years, you can already start to imagine scenarios where a current veteran's contract expires and a former top prospect steps into that role seamlessly. Maybe it is in the infield. Maybe it is at the back end of the rotation. Maybe it is a power bat who evolves into a middle-of-the-order presence. Those transitions define sustained success. The Dodgers have built a reputation for avoiding dramatic drop-offs between competitive cycles, and that reputation depends heavily on how well this current group of prospects develops. There's also something exciting about the unknown. For every highly ranked name, there is usually one player outside the spotlight who takes a massive leap. A former mid-round draft pick who adds velocity. A young hitter who transforms his swing path and suddenly unlocks power. Those breakthroughs cannot always be predicted by rankings alone. They're the product of adjustments, coaching, and relentless work behind the scenes. And when they happen, they can shift the outlook of an entire farm system. As this season unfolds, keep an eye not just on the box scores, but on the context. Pay attention to how these players respond after a rough outing or a hitless stretch. Watch how they adjust when pitchers attack them differently. Growth is rarely linear, especially for prospects balancing expectations with development. The Dodgers do not need every one of these young talents to become a superstar. They need a handful to become reliable contributors, a few to exceed projections, and enough depth to sustain flexibility when roster decisions get complicated. In that process, the quiet shaping of the next wave is already underway behind the scenes, setting the stage for what this franchise could look like when the current core eventually hands the torch to the next generation. And as this season unfolds, the focus will naturally return to the Major League roster and its pursuit of contention. But quietly, in minor league parks and developmental complexes, the future is being built pitch by pitch, at bat by at bat. Some of these names will fade. Others will rise. And over the next few years, we will find out which of these projections transform into tangible impact at the highest level. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. Shockwaves are rippling through the baseball world as whispers turn into loud speculation. The MLB has reportedly stripped the Los Angeles Dodgers of one of the most important titles in the franchise's history. While official statements are sparse, insiders suggest that the punishment stems from alleged violations that, until now, had remained largely under the radar. Sources close to team management hint that the repercussions could reshape not only the Dodgers' legacy, but also the league's approach to historical records and compliance. For fans who have followed the Dodgers' rise to prominence, the news feels almost surreal. The team, known for its recent dominance and deep playoff runs, has cultivated a reputation built on skill, strategy, and star power. Yet, even amid championships and record-breaking performances, whispers of irregularities, long dismissed as mere speculation, have resurfaced with renewed intensity. Baseball pundits are now debating the implications of such a drastic measure. How does one contextualize victories when history itself may be called into question? Social media is ablaze with reactions, ranging from disbelief to outrage. Die-hard supporters are demanding transparency, claiming that the punishment undermines decades of work, while critics argue that the MLB must maintain integrity above all else, no matter the popularity of the team involved. The league's silence on the specifics of the violations has only fueled rumors, leaving commentators to connect dots that may or may not be connected. Some speculate that the issue involves violations of player conduct rules or procedural breaches in the postseason, while others hint at financial or management-related infractions. Regardless of the truth behind these claims, the fallout is undeniable. The Dodgers' history books may need rewriting, and the narrative of one of baseball's most iconic franchises is suddenly in flux. The MLB's stance signals a zero-tolerance policy toward any actions that could taint the sport, and this development is expected to prompt scrutiny of other teams as well. In the meantime, fans, analysts, and former players are left in suspense, wondering how this unprecedented punishment will shape the legacy of a team once thought untouchable. One thing is certain: the Dodgers and the sport of baseball itself will never be seen the same way again. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.